Hey everybody, so it is now the month of November, so that means it's time to look into the games that we played during the month of October. So before I get into that, let's look at the stats. We played 49 times, and that was 34 different games. So it was a great week, great month for me. And you know what? The big part of that was, first of all, Halloween. We had a Halloween game night. I've been hosting my regular game night every second Fridays as well, so I'm getting some games in that way. Plus, my stepdaughter Lily has been in a board game playing mood every time she's been over, which is amazing. So every weekend she's here, we've played like 20 plus games. It's been great. So let's look into what made the top 9. So in number 9 position is Bag of Chips. I'm shocked. No, this is a game that I have walked by at Walmart. Every time I go to Walmart, I make a point of going to look at the games just to see. And I've looked at this one. I've picked it up a few times and left it there. And I'm like, I don't know. And then somebody on a Facebook group that I'm part of commented at how great of a game it was. And I was like, really? So I arranged to get a copy picked up. My friend came across it, and it was actually on clearance for $5. So we ended up getting our own copy, and we've played it a few times now, and it is good. That just goes to show. You know what? To me, it's like, oh, it's in a bag, like a chip bag. Really, it felt so gimmicky, or I didn't give it a whole lot of value, but it was good. And this is an interesting one. So you have the bag, you have, I think it's 25 different chips in there, but there's different flavor chips, and there's some that are more common than others. So the chicken flavored chip, there's only 3 of those, while the regular chips, there's lots of them, and then there's barbecue, and there's onion chips, and there's vinegar. And what will happen is you play in 4 stages. So you have 6 cards to begin with, and you'll look at all your cards, and then on the first stage you'll pull out, and I think it's 5 chips. So you pull out 5 chips so you can see all the chips that are out, and then you have the cards that have like different condition to score. So if you look at the cards here, so if there's one of each chip that are revealed throughout the game, then you can score 1. Now 1 is not a lot of points, so it's not one that you would necessarily try to thrive for, because you're trying to have the highest score at the end. So you'll have the 5 chips, and you'll look at all the different cards that you have, and you'll discard 2 of them that you'll put face down in front of you. Then you're going to go into the second step where you're going to pull 4 more chips, and then you're going to discard 1 more scoring card and put it face down in front of you. Then you're going to be in the third steps, and you're going to pull out, I want to say 3 chips here. So you pull out 3 chips, and then what's going to happen is you have 3 cards left. You're going to pick 2 to put in your plus side, and those are the cards that, if they are successful and they meet, you're going to score that amount of point that's at the top. And then you're going to put 1 in the negative side, and what that means is if that condition is met, then the number, like the score, is going to be a negative score in this case. Now, if it's not met, it's a 0. You don't have to worry about it. So it makes sense to keep a card that you don't think will resolve, so you can put that in the negative side. Now, every time I play, I always kind of forget that I should keep one of those. And then at the final round, you're going to draw 1 chip and then 1 final chip. And the reason you're doing it in 2 steps is some of the cards will score as to which was the last chip that was pulled from the bag. It's simple, it's straightforward, but it is neat, and it's kind of has some interesting decisions. Like, okay, I mean, if we get 2 more chicken, I can get this, and this is a lot of points, so maybe I should hold on to this. But there's only 3 chickens flavored chips out there. The chances are pulling the other 2, maybe I'll discard it. So then you discard it, and then the 2 chicken comes out. But it has some really interesting decisions. And it's a really neat game, and I was pleasantly surprised with that. So that's why that's my number 9. Now, in number 8 position, it is Einstein, His Amazing Life and Incomparable Science. That is a mouthful for the title, so it's just, I guess, Einstein is the main title. I bought this one on Look Alone. I was at Gobfest. There was a flea market, and I was kind of looking around in case I wanted something else. And this one was still there, and I was like, "Would you take $10?" And he did. And the only reason I bought it, I didn't know anything about this game, except that the components looked amazing. This is a tile laying game where you're trying to create pattern. Each player is going to be representing Einstein from a different era of his life. And you have these patterns that technically represent these different type of formula. Some will be like physics, some are math, like it's just the different. I mean, it's all abstract, but it's kind of neat. But then each card that you'll be playing too, or that you kind of score, has a fact on what was going on in his life during that era. So it's really neat. And you're trying to put these combinations together to create this pattern, then you can score the card. And then you can utilize your own shape, you can utilize other people's shape. Now, if you do use other people's shape, then they get some partial points for scoring that particular card. It's a very, very simple game. It plays super cool, but it has such beautiful table presence, and how you're creating this whole formula in the middle of the table just looks amazing. And I really enjoyed it, hence why it's my number 8. Then in number 7 position is, oops, I'm going too far here, Nyctophobia. Nyctophobia means fear of the dark. I had purchased this game quite a while ago for a birthday gift for my friend, and she's the one that I play all my horror spooky games with. So I knew she would enjoy the theme, but I wanted it by myself as well. So when I came across it, I bought my own copy, and I ended up pulling it out for my Halloween game night that I did with a couple of friends that come over. Actually, it's tradition. Every Halloween, we get together and we have like a full day of board games. And we ended up playing this one. Now, what's really interesting with this one is you have one player that'll play as the axe murderer in this case, and that was me. And everybody else is like the bystanders. And then you have different scenarios that you can play. So the one that we did was you were somewhere in the woods and you had to try to find the car and call for help, and do all this before anybody gets caught by the axe murderer. And the really interesting thing is this is all by feel. You do not see. You have these blackout glasses. So you put these glasses on, but it is completely black. So you don't see. Maybe a little bit on the peripheral vision. You could kind of dim the light and make it even spookier. But it was neat. And then you have this map in front of you, and they just kind of stick their hand out, and then the person that plays the axe murderer will guide them. Is that, okay, this is where you are. And you have this little round that has a pattern on it that's like, okay, this is my pattern, this is me. And it's like, to the north of you, you have this, and then you can kind of feel what's to the north. Now, if it's pokey things, like, oh, what are these pokey things? Oh, those are trees. Now, to the east, and then it's like, oh, okay, more trees. And then to the south of you, oh, okay, that's just an open area, so you could move that way. And to the west, and say, oh, another open area, you could go that way as well. But this is all completely by feel, and you got to try to remember where you've been and what the pattern is, and you're trying to locate the car that is somewhere on this map. It is neat. It was cool. So far I've only played as the axe murderer, where I can see and I'm guiding the other people. I really want to try where I am blind, trying to get into this, and trying to kind of find my way around. In this particular case, the axe murderer did end up winning, but it was cool. Now, in number 6 position, this is one that we've just purchased this month, and it's called Pina Pirata. We've pulled this one and played it multiple times. This is one that Lily's really enjoying. And, I would compare this, or we kind of describe this as Uno meets Flux with really cute artwork. And what's really neat is the cards will either be like a single pirate, or it'll have 2 symbols, and then kind of there's an artwork that faces each way. And then if you have the crocodile and the squid, then you can play either the crocodile or the squid onto the discard pile. And you're trying to get rid of your hand. And you're trying to do this 3 times so that each time you get a new piece of the treasure map. And once you've got all 4 treasure maps and you start with 1, then you win the game. But what's interesting is every time that you win and you get a piece of the treasure map, you actually get 3 pieces. You select 1 to add to your map. You select 1 that's going to change the rules a little bit. It could be that if you have the bunny symbol, that one is wild. Or it could be that every time you play a turtle, another player can give you an extra card, or different things like that. So it changes the rules all the time. And there's lots of these different rule changers where that kind of compares a little bit to the Flux game. And you can have up to 6. So it gets wild. But we've played it many times now. It's one that we really enjoy, and it is such a neat looking game that makes it fun. In number 5 position, I have Swindler. So Swindler is not my game. This is my friend's copy, and he picked it up when he was at Essen this in the fall here. And it's a really neat game. I had not heard of this one either. It's very simple to pick up. And this is one of those push your luck game that is such a neat, interesting game. So everybody plays as a different character. And then on your turn, you're going to decide which goal you're trying to accomplish. There are different goals that you can try to accomplish, and you would put your character token on the goals you want to do. And then you were going to go and pickpocket in a different pocket, and there's different colored pockets. So the green one would have, and I don't remember what everything had, but like one would have more rings, or one would have more of more money, and one would have keys and different things. And you're trying to get these combinations to match the goal so that you can get those gold cards. And you're also trying to get some resources that you can go and sell at the black market. And when a full order is fulfilled at the black market, you get to take that card that's going to, or that tile that would give you some points as well. And then you can collect cards that's going to kind of give you the ability to influence the game a little bit. It has some take that element to it. Push your luck, most definitely. I lost this game by a lot. I think half of the highest score. I was way behind. I wasn't lap, but it wasn't far. But it was a really neat game. So it was a very simple game to play, but it was a lot of fun, and one that I had never heard of. So it was neat to see it. In number 4 position is Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu. We ended up playing this as a family. Now it says 40 minutes here. We played this much quicker just because we died that fast. But it was so neat, and it looks cool. So it's like a pandemic board, but it's multiple cities. And instead of having like specific cities that you can, it's just like you'll have a card for this area and a card for that area. So you have 4 different colored cards that you can collect, and you're trying to collect 5 of each of the colored cards so you can go on that site and close down the portals that the cultists have open on each of the cities that are on the map. And then each round you'll be drawing cards, and you'll get more cultists that gets added to the map. And when there's more than 3 and then another one gets added, well, then this creature gets summoned. And then this creature, every round, there'll be cards that may or may not have his symbol on it. If it does have his symbol on it, that means he moves, and tries to move closer to an open portal so that he can try and bring out some of these horrible creatures as well. And that's what the cards are at the top of the map. Now, if you ever get the final card revealed and Cthulhu has been summoned, you lose the game. If you all characters go insane, you lose the game that way as well. If you run out of cards so you're not able to keep going, you lose the game. And in order to win the game, you need to close all portals. But when you're in contact with one other creature, then you got to take a sanity roll. Like, there's a lot of things going on. Now, this was a fairly straightforward game to play. It wasn't complicated, but it was a lot of fun, and we enjoyed it. Then in number 3 position is Galaxy Trucker. Now, there's a second edition. The copy I have is the first edition. But this is a really neat game. Now, keep in mind, this is chaotic. It plays in 3 rounds, and each round has 2 phases. So the first one, you collect pieces as fast as you can, and you're building your ship. You're going to be adding cannons or laser beams or whatever it's called. You're going to be putting some force field to try to protect your ship as well. You're going to have some living quarters so that you can have astronaut on your thing. You'll have cargo holds so that you can collect goods and so on. So you're building this ship. Now, some of this stuff is going to require energy to power, so then you need to have battery powers to be able to activate these things as you go through the journey. So you build your ship, and then on the first round, I don't think there's a time limit, but in the next 2 rounds, then you have the sand timer that kind of times down, and depending on how you feel about that, you may or may not be a fan. I thought it was neat. It kind of made it so you couldn't just take your time to build the perfect ship. You're on the clock here. You got to move quick, because as soon as somebody's done their ship, they'll turn the timer, and then you have that much time. You got to get going. So it was really neat. You put your ship together. Then in the second phase, you flip over these cards that are going to reveal what's happening on your trip. Basically, you're just collecting goods and you're carrying them in another location so that you can sell them. And you're trying to see how much of your ship is going to survive and make it there. But you'll come across asteroid. You'll come across different planet where you can collect goods. Or you'll come across, bad aliens that'll attack your ship as well, or different things like that. Very neat. I really, really like this game. Now, in number 2 position, I have Chinatown. Chinatown is such a neat negotiation game, and it feels like a really pure negotiation game. So you will be handed out cards that'll show different areas in this city where you'll have deeds to the land there. And then you're trying to create clusters so that you can put businesses in those areas and trying to build the business as much as you can. So if you're building a restaurant, I believe the restaurant can go up to 6 spaces. So you're trying to create a cluster that's all interconnected. That'll be up to 6, and trying to build a business that's up to 6, because then that business is going to score you even more. So each space of the business is going to score so much, but once the business is complete, then it increases its scoring value. And so each round when you score, you get money for what you've got. And the goal is to have the most money at the end of the game. But you acquire, like, you're giving cards, and you'll kind of select which one you want to get, and then you have to discard a few. And then with the one that you get, now it opens, like, you kind of do the same thing, drawing some businesses, and then it opens to the bidding. So I noticed that you have this hand that's right next to mine, which is so convenient for me. Not really for you, but I have this one over here that's near these things that you're building. This would probably be more useful for you. Should we swap? It's like, yeah, but yours is connected while mine is not connected yet. Maybe if you throw in this business, or if you add some money to the deal, and there's just anything goes. Super neat. I really, really enjoy this game. And that was my number 2. So then in number 1 position is the Transcontinental. I bought this one at FallCon in the end of August, and I had never heard of it. They had it there. The designer had a few extra copies, was attending the con, so he was able to sell some copies there. And it was such a neat game to play. Now, keep in mind, the setup of this one is a little bit intense. It's involved. I had purchased a neoprene mat that kind of showed where everything goes, and I think that definitely makes the setup a little bit easier to visualize and to set up. But basically what's happening in this one is you are building the train that is going across Canada, starting from the East Coast, trying to get to the West Coast. And the train is just going to go back and forth and then back and forth, and you're going to be kind of selecting you have different workers. It's a worker placement game. And you'll be stopping at these different locations that you'll place a worker on. Say, well, I intend to stop here. And then where you stop, there's going to be a card at the top and a card at the bottom. Now, the cards cover 2 spaces. So you'll be kind of activating this one over here and then activating that one over there. So you get to activate both action. And then depending on, maybe it gives you some goods and that actually goes on the train. So then you have access to these goods when you get to the end trying to build the train track further. Maybe that particular good is not part of the carts that are on the train. So it gets put into the train yard and it's not attached to the train yet. There's a lot going on to it. It wasn't a really difficult game, but it's definitely involved. It was really neat. It looked beautiful, and it was so fun to play. We didn't end up doing the full game just because it played a little long for the time that we had, and it was getting late in the night. So we didn't manage to get all the way to the West Coast. We ended before that, but definitely got a full sense of it, and this game is really good. And that was my number one game for the month of October. So just as a recap, these are all the games that made it into my top 9. Be sure to tune in next month and see which one makes the top 9 for the month of November. I'm still doing my game nights every couple weeks, so I'm getting, and then I'll be attending KevCon, so I'm hoping to get a lot of games in. In the meantime, if you want to follow me, my Facebook page is Mel's Board Game Room. I am also on Instagram as Mel's_boardgame_room. I also have a podcast that I do weekly with my friend Carla called The Board Game Specialists. And my YouTube channel is Mel's Board Game Room. Bye, everybody.